Hello, everyone. This is Alec from the Heel Turn Podcast. On today's podcast, I'm going to recap and review the Raw after WrestleMania and also preview the SmackDown after WrestleMania and give you some ideas of returns and debuts I expect. Why don't we jump right in and get started with the Raw after WrestleMania? So it opens, and I have the notes in front of me. It opens with John Cena cutting a promo on winning his 17th, and he's basically saying how he's the last real champion, and there's nobody in the back that can basically step up and take the title from him. And as he's wrapping up his promo, you see out of the corner, faded in the background, comes Randy Orton, and Randy Orton RKO's him. I really liked this segment because obviously we knew at some point we were going to get Randy Orton versus John Cena. Were we expecting it this early in Cena's heel run? Probably not. I think we were probably expecting it later on. But for me, do I see Randy winning at Backlash? Probably not. I think Cena's going to hold the title till maybe SummerSlam. And then he drops it to maybe Punk or Roman. And overall, this segment gets a nice 7 out of 10 for me. Then we go to the women's tag team title rematch from WrestleMania Sunday. And I need some explanation here. What was the point of having Lyra and Becky win the titles if you're just going to have them drop the titles the next night to Liv and Raquel? But they threw a curveball at us. Liv and Raquel won, and we thought everything was good after the match. It was, and then Becky decides to turn heel, and I have a theory that I want to run past everybody after I get done with the Raw recap. But Liv and Raquel, are we ever going to see the end of the Judgment Day? Don't get me wrong. I like the Judgment Day. I just feel like they've overstayed their welcome, and we need new faces and new factions. And I'll get to the new faction that's forming at the end of Raw recap. So we had that. Then you have the New Day comes out, and they're doing their celebration of winning the tag titles at WrestleMania, which I'm sorry, they did not deserve to win. The War Raiders should have retained their titles at Mania. But of course, the New Day wins. They come out, they're having their celebration. And then we get the Alpha Academy comes out and challenges them to a match. And I'm like, okay, so this match is going to happen. And then all of a sudden the lights go out. And we knew there was going to be a return. And it ends up being Rusev. And I like the spot they put Rusev in here. He's returning. And we find out after the show, he's returning as a heel. And I can see this working one of two ways for WWE with Rusev. Do you have him in a heel tag team with the Sheamus, or is he going to be a singles competitor and go after like the Intercontinental title or or one of the singles titles on Raw? Or did they do this to establish him that, oh, he's not going to be a pushover like he was the last time? Then you had Io after that, and I like those first two segments. The segment with Liv and Raquel winning the titles back. That match. That 6 out of 10 maybe. Then you got I really liked how they re-debuted Rusev. That's a 10 out of 10 for me. Then you got Io Sky coming out and basically celebrating her title win at from WrestleMania, beating Rhea and Bianca. Then you have she's interrupted by Stephanie Vicaire, and Stephanie challenges her to a match, and Io accepts. And I tell you, this was a really good match. I do watch NXT, and I feel like Stephanie Vicaire will be on the main roster soon. She is the NXT champion right now, but I feel like she's going to be up on the main roster within the next 2 or 3 months. This was a 5-star match that got ruined by interference from Roxanne Perez and Julia. Now, and the commentators were kind of hinting at it. Are we going to see a faction of Rhea, Stephanie Vicaire, and Julia? I could see that. To maybe when they bring Stephanie up, because Triple H really likes Stephanie Vicaire. I could really see that working. And then we get to Jay Uso's celebration of winning the World Heavyweight Championship. And we get another return. Sami Zayn comes out, congratulates Jay. And then they start doing the yeet thing. And basically, then you get Jimmy coming out, and they all hug. And I noticed something at the end, and I would like to know what you all think down in the comment section below with this video. But I noticed how Sammy, and at first when this happened, I'm like, there's no way they're going to turn him heel. There's absolutely no way. Now looking back at it, and I watched it over 2 or 3 times, I think they're slowly planting. They were testing the waters to see if it would work. But I think they might be testing the waters on a heel turn for Sami Zayn against Jey Uso down the road for a Sammy versus Jey match and give Sammy the win over Jey and have Sammy win the title. Do I think it happens? Probably not within the next couple months. Then you had a segment with, and this isn't on the recap, but then you had a segment where Gunther comes on and he's talking about how he lost, but he thinks that Jey didn't win fair and square by choking him out. And he walks up to the announcer's desk, and Michael Cole's like, you tapped out. You tapped out to Jey. And Gunther goes and grabs Michael Cole. And then all of a sudden, here comes Pat McAfee. And Pat McAfee gets choked out and put to sleep by Gunther. And I'm sorry, you don't put your hands on WWE officials or the commentators. That is the biggest no-no ever. And I hope Gunther gets suspended and fined an undisclosed amount of money for what he did. That was disgusting. And I don't. And now I feel like we're going to get Gunther versus Rusev at some point, which I'm fine with. Keep Gunther. It feels like right now the feud they're going towards is Pat McAfee versus Gunther, maybe Backlash, maybe SummerSlam, which don't get me wrong, he's not very good. He's a decent mic worker. He's good in the ring. But the issue I have here is Gunther's going to lose more credibility if somehow he was to lose to Pat McAfee. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Gunther choke out Pat McAfee. Now, could you throw a wrench in this and say, look, McAfee's there, but could we get maybe a Bronson Reed to come back and take out Gunther or somebody else? Then you get to the Intercontinental Championship match between Dominic Mysterio and Penta. This was a good match, and this was Dom's first title defense since winning the title at Mania. And I like this title defense, other than, of course, the Judgment Day was out there to help him. And we saw the return of JD McDonough, which JD had been gone for a long time. And Dom, I feel like they're going to turn, the Judgment Day is going to turn not against Dominic Mysterio, against Finn Balor. I feel like Finn's going to be the heel here. And we're going to see, and then maybe Liv and Raquel turn their back on Dom. But I feel like we might be kind of planting the seeds here for a face Judgment Day, a babyface Judgment Day run. And I think they're testing the waters with Dominic too, turning him face. I know all the slack I give the Judgment Day, but I think they do good as faces. And then you get to the main event segment. You got Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman that come out. And they start talking about how it was a really good WrestleMania because Seth won. I'm sorry. Heyman is a slimy, no good heel. He double turned on CM Punk, his best friend, and his wise man, Roman Reigns. You don't do that. And I don't think Heyman knows what he opened up with Roman. So anyway, they're talking, and CM Punk comes out, and we knew this was going to happen. Because I think this is the way they are going, is having Punk and Rollins feud. But they do the end credits as like a teaser because Punk was already out and Rollins kind of beat him up. So then they do the credits like the show's going off the air. And all of a sudden we hear Roman's song, his theme hit. And Heyman's like, oh no, we're in trouble. And yes, they were. Roman comes out and is Superman punches Heyman. So spears Rollins. Superman punches Heyman. And he's going to spear Heyman. And a hooded figure comes out and spears him. And we find out that it's Braun Breaker aligning himself with Rollins and Heyman. I'm going to be honest here. I like this pairing because we knew that Braun Breaker was going to be a Paul Heyman guy. It was just when were they going to pair them together? And they're putting them in a faction. And I don't think this faction is done. I think they're going to be adding more people. And here's some potential people I could see them adding. One being Seth Rollins' wife and Becky Lynch. Because we saw her turn heel on Monday and maybe Seth recruits her. And then maybe from NXT, if they don't go to SmackDown, maybe you can get Nathan Frazier from Fraxium, because that was Seth Rollins' protege. And then maybe you get an Austin Theory from A-Town Down Under, but I don't see that happening because they seem determined not to split that tag team up. And it's really irritating. Then you got, so now let's fast forward to tonight. You got SmackDown. I think we're going to see a debuting Jeff Cobb and a returning Aleister Black. And I think Aleister Black, how funny would this be? I think Aleister Black is going to interrupt Cody Rhodes tonight on SmackDown. Overall, back to Raw for a second. Overall, I thought Raw was a really good show. Gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. They're planting the seeds for a lot of feuds that are going to start. Overall, and I thought Raw after WrestleMania was really good. Let's see how SmackDown after WrestleMania does tonight. But I know this was a shorter podcast episode, but that's going to wrap it up today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe. This will be up on the Heel Turn Podcast Spotify in a few minutes. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. Leave your comments in the comment section down below on what you thought of the Raw after WrestleMania and what your expectations are for the SmackDown after WrestleMania tonight and what you expect at Backlash in St. Louis next month.